Hey there. Hi. I'm glad you came. It's good to see you again. I'm really glad you came by. Wish I could offer you a cup of coffee. I wanted to tell you that story. Basically, the story you told me. It was just such a great story. I wanted to make sure I had it right because I like to repeat it. And it's so awesome. So you went to Thanksgiving dinner at some relatives. I think it was upstate. And you went up there, and it's a nice Thanksgiving dinner. There's lots of people there, and friends and family, and the turkey, and the cranberry sauce, and the stuffing. The Dallas Cowboys are playing on TV, and they're losing, which I'm okay with that. And but your sister calls you aside, says, "Let me take you into the den," and she's obviously very upset. And you said, "What happened? What's the matter?" And she said, "Well, she's a patrol officer." And she thought she was up for a promotion. Well, she was up for a promotion to detective. And she was really counting on that extra money because, as you know, she has a sick daughter. And your sister was telling you they have some new medication that's quite expensive. It's very expensive. And the bump in pay to detective would have really helped the family. And, you said, "Well, what happened?" Well, I guess that's just life. There was a big pool of, patrol officers, and 100 were selected. And in that pool, 60% were men and 40% were women. And the police chief says, "Well, it's a randomized pool. Everybody gets an equal shot." It was a lottery system. And it just so happened that 80 men were selected and 20 women were selected for promotion. So you get called into dinner and people were, passing around the food, and they got the green bean casserole, but it just doesn't sit with you. You're replaying this in your head. You got 100 people that have been promoted. The pool had 60% men and 40% women. The police chief says that it's a lottery system, all the qualified candidates, and in actuality, it was 80 men and 20 women that were promoted. So you're turning this over in your mind, and you stop and you say, you excuse yourself from the dinner, and you go in the other room and you pull out your laptop computer and you pull up your Excel and you start punching some stuff in. And when you come back to dinner, you're now more satisfied. You have a smile on your face now. And so after dinner, you pull your sister aside and you say, "Listen, I got some news for you. When Monday comes, I want you to go get an attorney." And she says, "Well, what do I need an attorney for?" He says, "Well, you're gonna start a lawsuit." "Well, what do you mean?" "Well, I think you need to consult an attorney and sue the police department because they're not doing this on the up and up. There's obviously something wrong going on, and because the probability of the scenario you told me of selecting 20 females and 80 males under the scenario you gave me is like 1 in 100,000. And she's like, "Really?" So everybody leaves, says goodbye. She takes the data information that you gave to her, and a few weeks later, she gives you a phone call and says, "Hey, you know what? I'm so happy. I took the information and gave it to an attorney. The attorney looked it over, took it straight to City Council. City Council looked at it and said, 'I think we need to start an investigation.' So they started an investigation, and it turns out the police chief had lied. There was a lottery, there was a pool, but he didn't use those results. He buried them in a drawer, pulled out his own hand-picked people he wanted." And so your sister got some compensation, and they're going to redo the results, and she has another shot at it, and she's going to get some compensation like the other people that were lost out, and things worked out very well. And I said, "Well, that's great, but how did you do that? How did you know that?" And she said, "Well, it was kind of obvious because, this kind of scenario is going to stand outside of 3 standard deviations from the mean." Back up. It's been a long time since I had statistics. Why don't you show me what you're talking about? So she said, "Sure." So, she pulls up this piece of information, and I looked at that and I said, "Oh, okay, you're going to have to give me a second here. It's been a little while since I've had statistics class." So looking at this graph of a standard normal distribution, you got the positive 1, 2, 3 on the right-hand side, which is your 1, 2, 3 standard deviations. and minus 1, 2, 3, which are your negative 1, 2, 3 standard deviations. And it shows the percentages at all the pieces, 0.3413, 0.3413. And this shows how that within one standard deviation, you get 68% of all the occurrences. Within 2 standard deviations, you get 95% of all the occurrences. And within 3 standard deviations, you get 98.8% of all occurrences. Okay, well, how do you get the standard deviation? So, the formula here for a binomial distribution is, to get the standard deviation for a binomial distribution, is the square root of n, which is the number of occurrences, the number of trials, in this case 100, times p, the probability. So the probability of females would have been 0.4, 40% of them, times 1 minus p, which in that case would be 0.6. So it's the square root of 100 times 0.4 times 0.6, the square root of 24, which is 4.89. So 98.8% of all values fall within 3 standard deviations from the mean. The mean is 40. It will be 40 plus or minus 3 times 4.89, 40 plus or minus 14.7. So basically from 25 to 55 females. Now the police chief says they used the lottery system, and the lottery system selected only 20 females. The actual females promoted of 20 is less than your 25. The probability of this happening by chance is 0.2% or 0.002. Well, that's pretty interesting. And I said, well, that's really fascinating. Now what did you do? And you told me, well, okay, that is good. We got something there. But to take it to a lawsuit, I think let's calculate it more exacting than that, not just a probability or a percentage. Let's get a little closer there. Okay, well, now what do you do? And she suggested she went to the web and then went to Excel to get the probability of a binomial distribution. Okay, I can see that that's, I said, look at that thing. Holy cow, how do you read that? Well, you read that n choose x, p raised to the x, 1 minus p raised to the n minus x. Ugh, I don't know. What are you talking about? Well, you start off with the total number of combinations, which is 100 factorial is the numerator divided by 20 factorial times 80 factorial. That's the total number of people there, and then you had 20 females and 80 males. Then you multiply that by the probability of success raised to the power of the success, which in this case is 0.4 raised to the 20, and you multiply that by 1 minus the probability of success raised to the power of trials minus success, which is 1 minus 0.4 raised to the 100 minus 20. Basically, you look here, it's the 100 factorial divided by 20 factorial times 80 factorial. You see where those numbers came from. Times 0.4 raised to the 20. 0.4 is the probability of the females being chosen, and there were 20 females chosen, times 0.6 raised to the 80, raised to the power of 80. That's a power sign. And you see where those numbers come from. It looks complicated. You just put it in Excel. Excel says equal FACT. FACT is factorial. Equals FACT factorial. Open parentheses 100, close parentheses, divided by, that's a slash, open parentheses, FACT, open parentheses 80, close factorial, times FACT, open parentheses 20, close the parentheses twice, times 0.4 raised to the 20 times 0.6 raised to the 80, and you just put it in just like that. Boom, hit enter. Excel returns 0.000011. That's a very small number. That's basically 1 in 100,000. If they were to perform the same experiment 100,000 times, then it might come in 20 females and 80 males. But that takes a lot of time. So this is why you had a smile on your face when you returned to your sister and share these information with your sister. Now this 1 in 100,000 calculation is what the attorney took to the city council. This is what city council started their investigation on. This is the power of math. This is math's power to change people's lives. This is great. This is great stuff. And you are one ace accountant. And I want to give you a round of applause for that. All right, see you next time. All right, goodbye.